The comic book artist Frank Quitely once said that when the economy is good and people are doing well, Batman sells the best because he's the self-made hero. Yet when times are tough, Superman sells more because people are looking for a godlike intervention. In the late 1980s, Japan was booming, but apparently what they really wanted to see was a load of demons who would come round and really fuck the place up. For this instalment of our series on anime video Nasties, we're back in 1987 for Wicked City, the 82 minutes of horror noir OAV filth that marked the solo directorial debut of cult favourite Yoshiaki Kawajiri. In addition to our own human world, there exists a dark realm populated by demonic beasts. These two warring dimensions have, however, reached a state of ceasefire, and a peace treaty has been upheld for centuries, allowing the Black World to be kept secret from our normal tier eyes. The time has come for this treaty to be renewed, however, and a breakaway faction in the Black World would like nothing more than to see it crushed, reigniting violent struggle between both sides. Key to this peace accord is an ancient spiritualist named Giuseppe Maillart, and with the treaty due to be ratified in a matter of hours, two Black Guard peacekeepers are charged with protecting him, womanizing human Taki Renzaburo and human-shaped demoness Makie. In our last video, I talked about Legend of the Overfiend, first compilation movie in the Urotsuki Doji series. Unlike that film, I'd seen Wicked City before, but bizarrely, watching Overfiend gave me a fresh perspective on this one that I might not have had otherwise. Both films cover broadly similar territory in terms of their story, yet the execution is dramatically different. Adapted from the novel by Hideyuki Kikuchi of Vampire Hunter D fame, Wicked City lacks the epic sweep of its illustrious rival, eschewing that dimension-hopping series of unfortunate events in favour of a horror-themed buddy cop story, a bit like Lethal Weapon 3 in Hell. At heart, it's a straightforward tale, essentially just allowing our heroes to take on the ever weirder assassins coming after Maillart. But it's easy to follow, and it does what it does well enough, even if it would have been nice to see it develop some of its throwaway ideas a little further. We never see the Black World, for example, and nor does it ever make anything of the characters' cover stories, despite having explicitly told us that by day, Taki is an electronics salesman, Makie is a fashion model, and Maillart is a complete arsehole. The real issue I, like many others, have with Wicked City is the sheer amount of sexual violence. I once mockingly suggested that it was possible to review the film in 2 words, Rape City, and I think that holds kind of true. There may be less here than there was in Legend of the Overfiend, I don't fancy sitting down to count, but it's not a huge spoiler to say that from the second act onwards, nearly every encounter with the attackers ends in gruesome, quasi-pornographic rape, all of it levelled at poor Makie, and with little attempt to show any real consequence. Part of what I think made this such a difficult film for me to get through was that while I was never all that invested in any of Overfiend's players, Makie is actually a pretty cool character. She's a tough yet refined outsider who's more than a match for Playboy Taki or the ridiculous lecher Maillart. Some of you who remember the UK VHS release of this film may be on the verge of commenting to say that it wasn't that bad, but it's worth remembering that the cut we got was edited to obscure, tone down, or otherwise remove the scenes of rape. To the best of my knowledge, this version has never been released on DVD, and I haven't actually seen it to know how it compares, but I have read a few reviews that deal specifically with that version, and they were generally positive, which leads me to ask, how necessary were the scenes of sexual violence? Urotsuki Doji simply did a better job of convincing me that its extreme nature was integral to the narrative. It's holistically nasty in a way that Wicked City is not. By contrast, Wicked City feels like it could function perfectly well without its rape parade, and there's certainly anecdotal evidence that it does. Are people really looking for porn in their horror? I've heard it said that there is more sex in this film than there was in many of the animated porno titles of the time. Given the high price of tapes back then, it occurred to me to wonder if maybe including pornographic content was seen as a way of increasing your potential audience, and therefore granting them access to a higher budget. Just a thought. The most redeeming feature of this film is its visuals. While it all plays out on a relatively small scale compared to Overfiend, Wicked City feels far more slickly executed, with its urban backdrops bathed in deep, shadowy blues, flecked with the occasional red highlight, and Kawajiri's distinctive, elegant character art wearing the years far better than Overfiend's more typically 80s, squat, rounded look. Creature designs are arguably more restrained, but still memorably unsettling, taking things in a Cronenbergian, mutated body horror direction, epitomised by the infamous Spider-Woman with teeth in the most eye-watering place imaginable. Things also look good while they're moving. Kawajiri is one of the most gifted action directors of his generation, and even a cursory glance at the flowing balletic fight scenes will show why he still commands such a cult following even today, despite having directed only a handful of films, many of which tread across very similar ground. In fact, just a year later, Wicked City was followed up by the very similar looking Demon City Shinjuku, an adaptation of an earlier Kikuchi novel. It skews closer to being a traditional fantasy adventure than an outright horror film, but it is very much Wicked City's 12A certificate cousin, and certainly worth checking out if you want to get a flavour of this art style, but without the graphic content. Back though to Wicked City, and the matter of whether I feel you should watch this film is something I'm extremely conflicted about. The fact that it remains oddly likeable despite its sojourn into exceedingly grim waters is a minor miracle, and in some ways this film has more going for it than Overfiend did, yet it never really got under my skin to the same extent. It's a curio for the horror fans, to be sure, but it's too extreme for the contemporary casual anime viewer, and beyond the shock of its graphic content, too lightweight to really talk of as a classic. See Wicked City for its slick presentation and its inventive creature design, but don't expect more than a stylish B picture with some unpleasant afterthoughts.